I'd like to call order the City Council meeting for City of East Grand Forks for Tuesday, August 21st. This is now 5 o'clock. Would the City Clerk please call roll?
Mayor Steve Gander.
Here.
Council President Mark Olstead.
Here.
Council Vice President Chad Grassel.
Here.
Council Members Clarence Vetter.
Here.
Mike Pakshavinsky.
Here.
Tim Riopel.
Here.
Henry Tweeten.
Here.
Mark Demers.
Present.
Does term quorum please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chief Fedlin will have a swearing in and Officer Leroy followed by a demonstration.
This is actually a little more of an introduction rather than a swearing in. As smart as Leroy is, he doesn't speak English. So. We do have a badge for him. He's got his own K9 police department badge from East Grand Forks PD.
He's excited to be here.
And also actually want to say a few words that we'll give this to him so he can place it on the LEROY's collar. He's probably thinking it's a toy. Sure.
Okay. So, on behalf of the police department, I'd like to thank all of you for your support. This program was not simple to set up. He has not been an easy dog. He's 1.5 years old. He's full of energy, as you can hear. He just wants to go, go, go. Being from East Grand Forks, obviously, it's a very big reward for me to be able to give back to the community. I think that this is a very good way to do so. We've already been very well received. He was just out at the parade the other night. In the meantime, he was able to meet a bunch of people on the side of the street, and it was a very fun thing for me too. So I appreciate all your guys' support. Like I said, I played hockey for many years. The training that I went through with him was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was not easy. He can run much faster than I can. He's from the Czech Republic, if you guys didn't know that. He's a German Shepherd. He came to the United States when he was 8 weeks old. He's been here ever since. So all he knows is English. He has no special commands. And I'm going to do just a short drug demonstration for you guys. Obviously, we have very limited space. So I'm going to have Officer Anderson set out some marijuana for us. What I'm going to tell him to do, and he may do it as soon as I say the words, I'm going to tell him to seek dope. He's looking back already. That's his command word for drugs. He's trained on marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine. You stay. So what I do is I tell him seek dope, and I'm going to point out things that I want him to check. I'm going to go around and check. He's going to tell me where it's at by laying down like he is now. That's his indication that he has found the source of the odor. So what I'll do is tell him to seek dope.
Let us stand up.
And you can see when he finds it, he gets excited. So that's him. He points at it, looks at me, and says, "Dad, dope is right there." I know it's there. And he gets his ball. And that's a good ball. So thank you guys again. So if you guys would like to have a meal, I'll be at the showcase on Thursday night, right back here in the parking lot. Please, very friendly.
I'd just like to test that to make sure it's real dope.
I can assure you it is.
I'd like to make a comment. I saw an arrest here by the police department, and that dog was used. And for the people who've been against the dog, why, it's earned its keep many times. As long as I'm talking, the legislature made a big mistake when they didn't pass a bill for anti-drugs. They got to get together next time, because it's much worse than most people realize. The chief can tell us about that, and all of these policemen can. But the thing that amazed me is you raise the money and you raised it quick, so people were concerned.
Absolutely. We had very, very, very good support from the community.
You
Thanks,
gotta-
Tyler and Leroy.
you gotta
Good job.
keep
Appreciate
one
it.
there.
Thanks a lot.
I hope that dog lives a long time.
All right, move on to open forum, an opportunity for members of the public to address city council on items not on the current agenda. Items requiring council action may be deferred to staff, boards, and commissions for research and future council agendas if appropriate. If you'd like to address city council, please come up to the podium to do so now. Dale, did you want to say something, sir?
Yes, please. Dale Helms, 613 2nd Avenue Northeast, East Grand Forks. I'm here on behalf of the Heritage Foundation again, and I'm here to officially thank the city, the employees, the staff, everybody that come up and give us a hand on Sunday. It was absolutely appreciated because we were very short on staff ourselves. And I'll clarify the Saturday deal. I don't know where it come from, but when I made the proposal, I asked for Saturday and Sunday. It was gotten back to us that they had enough help for Sunday. So we knew that, and we were able to find help for Saturday to cover the burger stand. So I don't know where that communication, what happened there, or what went on, but we knew that that was the only day you were going to be there. So again, I appreciate it. Henry, thank you for coming. Mayor, thank you for driving the tractor and leading us off in the parade. You did a great job. And thanks for the bandstand and all the other stuff you've done for us. And thanks to the city and all the employees and everything for everything they've done for us out there at the Heritage. It's much appreciated. Thank you.
Dale, I'm glad we could come out there on Sunday and help out. It was wasn't the warmest days, but hopefully the crowd got to enjoy a lot of things, and it was good.
Thank you, Dale.
Yep,
Thank you. Move on to approval of minutes for August 7th council meeting and minute summary for August 7th closed session.
I'll move.
Second by Grasso, second by Demers. Roll call, please.
Better?
Yes.
Pakshavinsky?
Yes.
Riepel?
Yes.
Tweeten?
Yes.
Olsted?
Yes.
Grassel?
Yes.
Demers?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Scheduled bed lettings, none. Scheduled public hearings, none. Consent agenda, items under consent agenda will be adopted with one motion. However, council members may choose, request individual items to be pulled from the consent agenda for discussion and action if they choose. There is an addition to the list of vehicles to be declared as surplus and to be sold at auction. The Public Works Department would be including a 2001 Chevy Blazer. To note, would any council member like any items be pulled, number 3 through 5? I see none.
Move on 3 through 5.
There's a motion to move 3 for 1 by Demers.
Second.
Second by Riepel. Any questions or discussion? See none, roll call, please.
Better?
Yes.
Pakshavinsky?
Yes.
Riepel?
Yes.
Tweeten?
Yes.
Olsted?
Yes.
Grassel?
Yes.
Demers?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Now I'll receipt of reports and officers, boards, and commissions. Number 6, regular meeting minutes of Water, Light, Power, and Building Commission for August 2nd, 2018. Communication, there's none. Old business, there's none. New business, consider awarding the job for paving East Road by Civic Center to Aqua Construction for an amount of $31,800. Moved by Grasso, second by Demers. Any questions or discussion? See none, roll call, please.
Better?
Yes.
Pakshavinsky?
Yes.
Riepel?
Yes.
Tweeten?
Yes.
Olsted?
Yes.
Grassel?
Yes.
Demers?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Number 8, consider approving the request to start a hiring register for an administrative assistant dispatcher jailer. Moved by Tweeten.
Second.
Second by Demers. Any questions or discussion? See none, roll call, please.
Better?
Yes.
Pakshavinsky?
Yes.
Riepel?
Yes.
Tweeten?
Yes.
Olsted?
Yes.
Grassel?
Yes.
Demers?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Number 9, consider approving the memorandum of understanding between the City of East Grand Forks and the Law Enforcement Labor Services, which grants the Chief of Police authority to delegate acting sergeant status and associated decision-making authority instead of it automatically going to the senior officer.
Move.
By Demers, second by Tweeden. Any discussion or questions? See none, roll call, please.
Better?
No.
Pakshavinsky?
Yes.
Riepel?
Yes.
Tweeten?
Yes.
Olsted?
Yes.
Grassel?
Yes.
Demers?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Number 10, consider approving the bear lot purchase agreement between the City of East Grand Forks and Sacred Heart of parcel number 83.00116.00 plus additional acreage for a total of $6,000. We move tweet and move, second by Repel. Any questions or discussion?
I would like to make a comment,
Gulstead.
Mr. President. Essentially, what I did speak with Sacred Heart as well as their attorney, Mr. Stromstad, regarding this. I know that in our conversation, and I brought it up regarding a potential hazardous waste that could be unearthed. One of the concerns that Sacred Heart expressed to me was that they thought maybe because of the old water tower, and when we repainted it, there could be lead paint or something that would be in the earth. Okay. What my recommendation is that I would sell this, but it would be contingent upon them doing a phase 1 environmental. If it doesn't come up clean, then we don't sell it because it could potentially have more responsibility or liability to the city than the $6,000, or if it was the lead paint, or it could be something else out there that could become our issue if we can't locate who the responsible party would be. So that might not be a popular opinion, but it would protect the city if there is hazardous waste that's found when it's being developed. I know Nick's here or Mike's here if they wanted to address that at all, but that would be my recommendation.
The only other thing that was, there's I guess a potential disagreement or discussion item on that particular property was there was a request that the parking lot and the way it was phrased could be used as a dirt parking lot. I believe we have that clarified that would be used just for staging during the construction before there would be any parking that would be put on it long-term rather than just staging for the construction part, that would be paved in some manner. And I believe the Sacred Heart is in agreement with that. So
the other thing of it is that what we're voting on is, at least what's on the agenda, is the purchase agreement that I had submitted. So I told Nick that I would let him address the council if he had any other questions.
Thank you, council members. Again, Nick Stromstad, attorney for Sacred Heart. I guess at this point in time, you guys will move forward with voting on the purchase agreement that Ron has presented. From Sacred Heart's perspective, we would really like to have something to move forward with. So, passing a version of the purchase agreement that I can then present to them, advise them as to, what their risks are in moving forward and things like that would be beneficial, I think, to everybody moving forward, because I think it's in everybody's best interest for this property to be sold. Sacred Heart is not interested in disturbing the ground. Ultimately, it's going to be a parking area. So again, I just ask that you consider that in the decision you make. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve the agreement.
Sorry, a motion. And
Oh, we have?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where was I?
Right next to me.
Thanks, Dave. Sorry about that.
Anybody else have anything to add or questions? Mr. Demers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nick, sorry to wait for you out. In your past comments last week, you had mentioned that you thought that there was, like, on that hazardous waste or hazardous materials, you thought that there was already statute or something that governed that. Did you have a chance to review that or do a look?
Well, and we both discussed that. There is a statute that basically is the environmental statute in the state of Minnesota. It's 115, I think, .02, that does establish responsible parties, and then and how do you determine that? The paragraph that I spoke with Nick about was that I believe, in my opinion, that it's exceeds the responsibility that the city would have pursuant to that statute. Okay. The other thing of it is that it becomes the responsible party that owned that property at the time that the hazardous release or waste was included. However, if you can't locate that party, the onus potentially can fall on the city. The issue that Nick had indicated to me was that there was some concern potentially that there could be some lead-based paint based upon the cleaning and painting of that water tower. If that's the case, then that would be the city's responsibility if it was located to remediate it. And so that is why my recommendation would be to have a phase one, which is the least onerous environmental study performed to determine whether or not they're finding any hazardous waste in there prior to the sale. And then if it comes back clean, the sale can go forward. If not, then there has to be made a decision on whether or not you want to sell it and to see if there's going to be an expense for the remediation.
Is there a waiver of that? Could they waive the right to that phase one?
Statutorily, the city, if the city was a responsible party, the city cannot waive their responsibility.
No, I'm saying, could Sacred Heart waive the environmental phase one and then just take it as is?
Well, they could, but that, in my opinion, doesn't protect the city, because what happens is the city can sell it as is, but if we're considered, based upon that scenario, that there's lead paint that needs to be remediated, we can't waive that or require them to take that burden on by statute. We can't pass that responsibility on to the new owner. So what would end up happening is that if they waive the fact that they were going to do a phase one, and there is waste that's our responsibility, we're the ones that are going to be footing the bill for cleaning it up.
So the end result is, say you do the phase one, and it comes back that there's lead paint or something in the first 2 feet of soil, because that's all you're going to really disturb.
Yep.
It comes back and the abatement is $10,000 or $15,000. Then the city would just say, we're not going to sell it because it's going to cost us too much because we didn't clean it up right the first time.
That would be the decision of the city at that point in time, if they still wanted to sell it for, $6,000, I guess. It would become your discretion at how you'd want to do it. And I don't know what else. I don't know. Maybe you could ask Henry. I don't know what the history is of that lot, on what was there, if we had anything else there, those types of things. So.
If I may, just to clarify, are we talking that the city will take on the phase one, Sacred Heart, or?
Sacred Heart.
Okay, and then.
That'd be my recommendation. That's up to them.
Okay, and then, I would have to present that Sacred Heart then to see if they wanted to move forward with that, if that's what is passed by the council.
Dahlstead, with the agreement in front of us now, there's no indication of the phase one. Maybe if I'm missing it, point it out to me. Or it does give them, let's say they do a phase one, and something does come up. Within that 180 days, nothing happens, everything's done with, nothing goes any further, it's null and void. Is that my understanding?
Yes, I didn't understand your
If nothing
questions.
happens within 180 days, they don't execute the agreement. Is everything null and void and nothing happens then? It's back to...
Well, that's what the agreement says. That it has to be accepted within.
So right now, nothing in the agreement indicates a phase one or anything else that you brought up earlier.
No, that issue wasn't raised, and that's why my recommendation would be to sell it contingent upon a phase one being performed.
But the resolution in front of us and the motion in front of us does not indicate that. Correct? I'm just saying.
That's correct.
Okay. So right now, as it sits, the motion is what was presented as a purchase agreement without your recommendations. So we would have to either vote no or amend the motion by the first person who made the motion, which is who?
Wheaton.
Wheaton?
Henry.
You want to amend the motion?
Go ahead, Mr. Demers.
Mr. Emery, do you have any reference for what, like some abatement in that, like of lead paint or something like that would cost for, if you're going to go down and put a parking lot in? You're probably talking 2.5 feet, 3 feet, probably tops.
Cost would be?
How, you know, I mean, basically you'd have to just landfill it, or?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking whatever that rate is. So you're probably talking, I have no idea. Not to put you on the spot, I'm just.
Any idea what the phase 1 study is, cost-wise?
I would guess in that $3,000 to $5,000 range, probably.
Nick, do you have something, sir?
Yeah, I guess one other thing I would say then is if the motion's going to be amended anyways, I would request that after speaking with Ron Galstead, to consider at least my other proposed changes to the purchase agreement, which I believe Ron didn't have any problems with. He can address the council on that, but at least then we can whittle it down to the one issue that is at hand. And then if my other requested changes are all right, I would request that those be part of the amended motion as well.
Which are what, again?
I didn't bring that with me. I had it at the meeting, but there was the first one was that they be able to hire their own licensed surveyor to do the subdivision. I had no problem with that. The other issue was a merger clause, which was the last one that I can recall. I had no problem with that. The issue, the third one, other than the hazardous waste, was that putting a parking lot on the site would not be a hindrance to the considered a hindrance to the easement. The only thing that I would say about that is that it wouldn't be considered a hindrance to the easement. However, if in fact that there was a need to in the future repair, relocate the utilities over there, for instance, that the repair to the asphalt or concrete would be the responsibility of Sacred Heart, as we discussed the last time, just like we put in the other agreements that have been selling property with easements on it.
Phil.
We need to vote this down and table it till the next meeting or something, till we can have it all the ducks in a row here? Or would that be beneficial?
Well, that would be beneficial well, I don't know if that'd be beneficial to Sacred Heart because they want to have something to act on and move, but it would be beneficial to the council to have a document that's clarified for that purpose. I did talk about this at the department head meeting, just indicating that what was being voted on was my version of it, and that my biggest concern was this selling it and having liability and responsibility for the city over and above the $6,000 that you're actually getting for the piece of property.
I'm assuming, Nick, you're going to tell us you want to get this done as soon as possible. Is there a way that this could go to another work session and come back, or is this something that is detrimental? That is going to be, I know you're going to say it anyway, so I'm going to ask the question. So.
Yeah, Sacred Heart is interested in moving forward as soon as possible. I've been contacted by them basically saying, hey, who do we write the check to? We're ready to go. I think they're really eager to use that space for that interim, for their expansion. So that's the urgency on that end. They're interested in using that space and getting it taken care of. I don't know if did that address sufficiently?
Well, I knew you were going to say it anyway. It was just my thought is we don't have the phase 1 language in there. We don't have some of the recommendations that you gave Mr. Galstead, clarified for us. So I mean, us to go back and have Henry amend his motion to what was just off the top of the head, just given how it's very difficult for me, in my mind, but I understand the urgency to get it done. And by no means is this an indication that we don't want to do this. We just want to make sure we're doing this right. And that it's right for you also, representing Sacred Heart, not we're battling back and forth. This is not the case at all. So if anybody's thinking that it's not, make clear this is not something we're fighting. I just want to make sure we're doing this correctly. So.
And I think in the meantime, if what their concern is a staging site, I don't think the city would have a problem with it being a staging site until such time as that.
I don't have a problem with that.
The other thing is, I just looked up the area of it. I mean, we're talking, if we did 3 feet of that entire parcel, it's like 600 yards. It's not, you're talking like a $50,000 remediation or something. I mean, we're probably talking not much to landfill it, you know, so, I mean, we're also talking not a lot of money. So do we want to wait for 2 weeks to, but either way, I guess do it right and have the staging area set up, but it's not a lot.
Is everybody okay with tabling this, or do you want to vote on it?
We approve it, at least then he's got something that he can take to Sacred Heart. He may come back with some amendments to it that we might have to vote on in the future, but at least he's got something that he can take to that.
So Mr. Gall said if we approve this purchase agreement in front of us the way it is, and Nick, you can interject also, if we do approve it the way it is and they want to come back and say, no, we want this amended purchase agreement, is that allowed, and also what process do they have to go through just to make sure we're doing this correctly? I understand what you're saying, I just want to make sure.
Well, it depends upon how you want to handle this. Is it a negotiation or is it a sale? You know, where you're saying this is the terms that I'm willing to sell it for, and kind of take it or leave it. That's what one of the questions that Nick had asked me earlier is that if in fact this is turned down in its entirety, is there a possibility that it could be resurrected at some other time? So that's where I'm kind of coming from in myself. I don't mean to complicate things, but is it a sale where we're saying this is what our terms are, or is it just an ongoing negotiation for the parcel? You know, because they could say we could approve this pending. We could approve it as is right now, or add the phase 1 language to it like we're discussing. They could come back and say, yes, I'll buy it, or no, I won't, but I would buy it for, if you remove this, or sell it to me for less. So it depends upon what this group wants to do. Right now, my recommendation is to go ahead and sell it, but contingent upon a phase 1 being done that everybody can live with, that it's not going to cost the city a bunch of money to remediate. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but when we sold this property over here to Prax, there had to be a phase 1 done, and that to remediate that went on for years at the city's expense. So, you know, it just because we're thinking that there could or couldn't be lead over there from lead paint, there could end up being all kinds of other stuff from the railroad being right next to it that ultimately would need to be remediated. If you're disturbing the soil, it may or may not be our responsibility, but it does then need to be monitored. It does become our expense, and depending upon what the Superfund is willing to do to assist in the remediation, it could end up being costly. I might not be anything, Mark. It could be $2,000. I can't tell you that. I'm just giving you the advice that we don't know what it is. It could significantly pale the $6,000 that you're getting for it, and are you willing to take that chance? You know.
So to your, I'm just wondering, because I'm not a lawyer. So if there was something found, but it was due to railroad activity, that would be something that wouldn't have been in the city's knowledge, right? It would be so that's not our responsibility.
It may not be,
So
it may
we're
not be
only,
our,
our only exposure is to things that we knowingly would have done, which would have had to do with something in that place while we owned it for the water.
the only thing that I'm going to say right now is I can't tell you, I've got to look up the railroad, because the railroad has different rules that apply to them for a lot of different things, so.
Boy, do they ever.
What's that?
Boy, do they ever.
So I can't tell you how the remediation for railroad would go, because I know that the city became responsible for a lot of stuff over here at the old depot building and the Prac site over here.
I'd like to make a comment, Mr. Chairman, President. Ron, what the agreement provides is you're giving a quitclaim deed with a reservation of easement, and Sacred Heart is going to have to do certain things. Now, we've kicked this thing around a long time. I don't think there's any oil wells in it, so I think the city can get rid of it. I'd like to take and get rid of it tonight, this late afternoon. We're stumbling along, and we should be more efficient than what we're acting.
So basically, Henry, it gets down to you wanting to amend your motion then to include the phase 1. And if,
Well, I made a motion to go forward. Now, if they want to do something else, fine. If there's something that gives the city a problem, it's not unusual to give quitclaim deeds and reserve easements. It's the whole east end of the city had that sort of situation.
I don't think we're too worried about the quitclaim deed or the easements. We're talking about the phase 1s.
Would you need to amend to add
Murphy.
phase 1?
Yep. And I guess I believe.
I'll move on that. You go ahead and I'll second it.
He wants to amend it.
Hang on, Mr. Murphy.
Okay. And I believe what the attorney for Sacred Heart is looking for here is if that's the case, if the council would approve that tonight, then that gives him something to bring back. The Sacred Heart could then counteroffer saying, we don't agree with the phase 1, we don't want to, or they could come back with something else. But I think it'd be something that then they could bring that back and have a discussion and say that, yeah, we'll agree to these terms and we can get moving on it. So I guess as far as that, if the council is okay with adding that language in there, then they could certainly counteroffer if they so choose. So I guess I wouldn't have a problem with that.
So Henry amended his motion, and Mr. Riepel, are you seconding that amendment?
Yes.
Motion. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions or discussion on this?
Are you also incorporating any of his requests or only that single?
That's the counteroffer. Just the phase 1.
Just the phase 1.
As far as my understanding. Any other questions?
If I may, what about the staging area in the interim? Is that
Staging
also-
area, I don't have an issue with that. Do we need that in the?
I don't. That wouldn't need to be a part of the purchase agreement. That would be something that the city could just allow outside of that.
You have it on record, and so you can go back.
Got it.
Anything else? If not, roll call, please.
Better?
Can I clarify the motion that's on the table?
Sure.
Or on the floor, I guess. So basically, the motion is to go ahead with the purchase agreement that's outlined, adding a clause that says there has to be a phase 1 environmental study done before that purchase agreement can be executed.
Before the transfer of the properties, actually.
At their expense is what's stipulated so far.
Correct.
So, never mind.
Anything else, Mr. Demers? No. Okay, anybody else have anything? Roll call, please.
Better? Pakshavinsky?
Yes.
Riepel?
Yes.
Tweeten?
Yes.
Olsted?
Yes.
Grassel?
Yes.
Demers?
No.
Motion is carried. Number 11, consider adopting resolution number 18-08-52, requesting the appointment and ratification of members to the Charter Commission.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Grasso, second by Demers. Any questions or discussion?
If I may, I did revise the documents to include Mr. Olsted's name as well. The document also indicates that it would be a member of the city council that would be appointed based upon our city charter right now and how the other commission members or board members are appointed, and the recommendation approved by the city council to be submitted in the future to the chief judge.
Anything else, Mr. Demers?
Thank you, Mr. President. What's the time frame for getting this through the court?
Well, as soon as you, if you pass this, then what I'll be doing is just submitting it to the court as soon as I get the paperwork signed. So
it can take.
What's that?
Court can take.
Actually, and I haven't talked to him, but I believe that the judge will probably just sign off on it.
Anything else for anybody?
There won't be a need necessarily to have a hearing on it.
Anything else? Not roll call, please.
Better?
Yes.
Pakshavinsky?
Yes.
Riepel?
Yes.
Wheaton?
Yes.
Olsted?
Yes.
Grassel?
Yes.
Demers?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Claims, consider authorizing the city administrator, clerk treasurer to issue payment of recommended bills and payroll.
Move.
Moved by Repel. Second by Demers. Roll call.
Better?
Yes.
Pakshavinsky?
Yes.
Riepel?
Yes.
Wheaton?
Yes.
Olsted?
Yes.
Grassel?
Yes.
Demers?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Mary Gander.
As was indicated earlier, it was Heritage Days this last weekend. One of the most enjoyable things that I've had the opportunity to do in quite some time was to drive that tractor, and behind it was the trailer with the figures that are carved out of wood and 2 huge American flags. And as I went through our city streets, there were people from age 2 to age 85 plus that would stand when the flag came by with the hand over the heart. And it was really one of the most patriotically moving things I've done to see that respect for the flag, that respect for our country. Dale, thank you to you and to all the Heritage folks to give me that opportunity. Let us know as a city council how we can help in promoting that in the future, making people aware of it. Maybe we can get some more hot dishes for the hot dish contest, tater tot. The one we had was very good, but we'd love to have about a dozen of them in there next time. And we had a great panel of judges. Marilyn Haggerty was back, and it was just a whole neat group of people there judging hot dishes. So Heritage Days, I think, was a good success, and we'll work on promoting and opening the doors to more and more people there. Last night I had the opportunity to go to the Grand Forks Air Force Base, and there I got to meet the Secretary of the Air Force, Heather Wilson. And they let me know just out of the blue, Henry, they said, we're going to have to really strengthen our relationship with Northland Community Technical College. Not only do they want their airmen to receive advanced degrees while enrolled in the Air Force, so even unrelated degrees, but they said we're going to need the UAV training program from Northland. We cannot get people trained fast enough for the unmanned space program that they have and the unmanned aerial program. So they do want to continue to build that relationship. It's been happening day by day, and it's going to keep happening. I do have also 2 Grinder Awards that I want to give out. And I understand that Mr. Albert Avila has already received a City Beautification Award. But I was sitting in a certain place in our community the other day, and I've seen Albert come by many, many times picking up garbage, litter, various things. But he's added a new bit of beautification to his repertoire, and that is he now removes weeds that are hanging over the curbs. So as Albert went by, he took the whole row of weeds hanging over the curb and cleaned it up. And I just wonder what this city would look like if one day you dumped all the trash, put back all the weeds, and erased every smile that Albert has given to our community. What would this place look like? I'm not sure I'd want to live here right then, because he's done a lot over his lifetime. Many, many years, probably 30, 40 years he's been doing this. So Albert, he's getting a Grinder Award. And there's one more, and that is we got word that Naomi Donovan finished her goal. And thank you to our Parks and Rec people. Reed Hutton and Mark Dragich went over there today at 4 o'clock. And Naomi Donovan finished her bike ride of 24,901 miles, which is the distance around the Earth at the equator. She started it some years ago. She set the goal. She'd been tracking her miles ever since. I don't know how many years. Did she say how many years, Reed?
Yeah, 8 years. She started in 2010.
8 years. Many of those on our greenway trails, many of them on our city streets. And as soon as I made Reed and Mark aware of it, they made it out there and they participated. And she came through right to the Griggs trailhead. And she completed that. Now she's going to set a new goal, and she's going to keep on going. She's in her 70s, and she's enjoying this community, and she just loves it. I mean, she travels all our streets, all our trails, and so I think for traveling 24,901 miles on a bicycle, she deserves a Grinder Award. That's what I have.
Mr. Vedder.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Mr. Pachivinsky.
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Reeville.
Nothing.
Mr. Tweeten.
I'd like to make a comment. The Heritage Foundation did a real good job as far as the parade, and they've done an excellent job out there. Now, if there's anybody in the room that isn't a member, Doc Gander and I are going to come around and get a check for your membership. There was a time that all of the department heads and everybody on the council were members. So the membership isn't very high. But one thing that impressed me on the parade, and you must have known about it, Stumpy, the way he drove that tractor. Now, I understand there were farmers standing along the street, and they were just flipping a coin as to who was going to hire him for harvest to drive a tractor. I think he'd be good at it. But I'd like to make one other comment about myself. I've been very fortunate. I've been involved with this city since the summer of 1953, when we tried to get the first grade school in the North End. And it's been a fight most of the way. But the thing is, it has to be that way. Cities change, time change. The unfortunate thing that happened to me through the years is I am a victim of a terrible, terrible war. I've lost my hearing. I got bombed. I got shelled many times. And I start losing my hearing too early. But my brain is still working. I intend to help the city as long as I'm around. And Doc Gander and I have had a good talk about it. When we have to go down the state, I still know where the money is. And frankly, we invited Dayton here. We hope we can get him here to show him the tech schools, show him the campground, and also to take and show him possible places that East Grand Forks and Grand Forks should get a bridge in motion. We've gone too long without a bridge, and somewhere we've got to get that settled out. And I'm certain that if he gets here and sets the time away as he should, it's an educational visit. The campground will be helped, and if that gets help, we get help because of it, and we get this bridge thing out of the way. I'll shut up from there on.
Mr. Demers.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Nothing for me.
I have nothing either. Mr.
Nothing,
Halstead,
thank you.
Mr. Emery. Anything from the department heads tonight? Mr. Hedlund.
As a reminder, this Thursday, right out here in the parking lot, we do have this network showcase, their annual ice cream social, all the city departments that are represented as one, as well as Polk County Public Health and a few other agencies. Encourage you all.
Anything else from anybody? Not entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Riepel, second by Demers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried and is adjourned. Downstairs.
Are we going downstairs?
Yep, we're going downstairs.
Okay. 5 minutes.
What's that?